one of the hardest things to do for this relationship series, I think, is recording myself and interviewing myself to try and make it look real. Uh, my name's David Moss, president of His Sprint Ministries, and it's just been an absolute blessing to watch what God has done through His print and the opportunity that we've been allowed to come for these past 14 plus years to Croatia and now into Bosnia and Serbia, Herzegovina, into Montenegro, Macedonia, sending equipment to Montenegro, sending equipment to obviously Serbia and Croatia and Slovenia, and even into Kosovo and Bulgaria, and just blessed with the opportunity to get to meet you guys, talk with you guys, share with you guys. And today I want to share one of the 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 question I ask a lot of times when I'm given a devotion is I ask the campers or the football players or the football team and coaches that are around me, what's the most important position on the field? You get answers all the way from the quarterback who controls the game, running back who might be the best player on that particular team, or maybe a talented wide receiver or linebacker who makes the most tackles. But the answer to me is the center. The center is who starts the game. The center is who handles the ball every play. The game cannot start, the play cannot start without that center hiking the ball. And it won't get into the quarterback's hands if the center doesn't hike it properly. If the center decides not to hike it at all, there's a penalty. And so I think for me, the center is the most important player on the field. And I say that in relationship to my life and to the importance of who's the center of my life. And the center of my life is Jesus Christ. I place my full faith and trust in Him and in Him alone. That's why God has opened the door. He's asked me to come, to share that love, to love them right where they are, love them till they ask why. And He's opened the door to do that in football. And we're blessed with that opportunity, as well as in other areas that He has opened the door for. And it's my opportunity to share why He's the center of my life. Before Him, my life was full of BS. Seriously, it was all about me being served, being served. And it's not just as bad as what you were thinking. And it was terrible because it all circled around me and what I wanted and what I wanted others to give me or provide for me. And it wasn't until I completely understood that I was a sinner, that I had, because of my sin, didn't have a relationship with God, and that I desired the relationship with Him, and that He had graciously sent His Son Jesus because He was rich in love, so that Jesus would take upon Himself the position that I deserved. The position I deserved was to be on that cross. Yet Jesus took my place, took the place of the world. It tells us that for God so loved the world in John 3:16 that He gave His only Son. Now, He gave His only Son because there was a sacrifice that needed to happen in order to restore the relationship that was damaged and destroyed by sin. And that sacrificial system had been set up with the Israelite people back before Christ came. And it had to happen every year. But when Christ came, He became the perfect lamb. He took upon Himself the sins of this world and died, that whosoever believed in Him would have life eternally. That's Jesus to me. That's the desire and the blessing that I have, to have him as the center of my life, to start each day, to hike the ball, to give me the opportunity to make the play of the day, to make many plays in a day. And I want to pull in this passage of scripture from Galatians chapter 2, verse 20. And there it says, I have been crucified with Christ, and I no longer live, but Christ lives in me. The life I live in this body that I have, I live by faith in the Son of God who loved me and gave himself for me. You see, after the center hikes the ball, he's not done. He, along with his teammates on that front line, block, provide a defense, extend themselves in a position that protects me, the quarterback. The center starts the play. The center blocks throughout the day. And that's what Jesus is to me. He's the center of my life. So as you go and play the game, realize the center, you centers, you guys start the play, and the play wouldn't start without you. But let's make Jesus the center of our lives. I'm so blessed and with the opportunity to, even though we can't come this summer, that we can still reach out to you, because you're never far from our minds. You're deep-seated in our hearts and often in our prayers. Take care. Love you guys. See you soon. Welcome to the His Print Relationship Network, and the opportunity that we have to share these experiences and these relationships that we've built with coaches from Texas and around the U.S. as well as around the world, and the opportunity we have to let you know that we're thinking of you, we're praying for you, and that you're not forgotten. You guys, you're a part of our lives, and we're just blessed by that. We come to share the love of the game, but we also come to share the love for you and the love for Jesus. And today it's been just it is an absolute blessing to bring Spencer Wood to the table, if you will. And welcome, Spencer. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, David. It's funny to hear you say welcome to joining the table as we're sitting here 1,000 miles apart. So it's cool. But yeah, thanks for having me on. It's always fun talking with you.
Super. Spencer is part of a network of camps across the world, going through Grow the Game. And Spencer, if you wouldn't mind, give us a brief overview, underview, and an overall view of Spencer Wood, where you've been and what you're doing today.
Yeah, I'll try to keep it pretty concise, because I know that I could kind of meander around for a little bit. But yeah, so I moved to Europe in 2014 originally. So I'm an American, if you couldn't tell. But I finished playing college ball, and I came over as an import player in 2014. I was playing in Poland originally. Had a really cool experience there. Was really just interested in how the game is developing in Europe. I didn't even know football was here in Europe until I came over here, really. But I had a really fun season over there playing. Unfortunately, I had some injuries and I couldn't play anymore, so I turned to coaching. Always wanted to be a coach anyway, so it was a natural transition. And yeah, so I coached after that in Poland. I coached a season in Austria. I coached a season back in a university in California. I came back, coached in the GFL in Germany. And then in 2017, I moved up here to Brussels, Belgium. And currently I'm the head coach of the Belgian national team here.
Awesome. So tell me, where is home when you're back in the States where you grew up? Where's that?
Well, I moved around a lot growing up, but I say Atlanta is where I'm home. Home for me. That's kind of where my folks are still at. That's where I went to middle school and high school. But I moved around a lot. But if I say when I'm going home, that's Atlanta, Georgia.
Atlanta, Georgia.
That's right.
I
Some good
got you.
football there, and not quite Texas level, but it's some good football.
That's neat. So where'd you go to play college? Where was college?
I played at a couple schools. I played junior college football in California, Santa Barbara City College, and also played NAIA ball at Belhaven University in Mississippi. They're actually Division III now. They were NAIA when I was there.
Super. And so from there, made the transition over to Europe, and
Yeah.
have had a heart for Europeans and European football since then.
Yeah. Oh man, it's so cool. Teaching the sport that I grew up. And now you come over here in Europe, and there's people that haven't really been around football, and maybe they picked it up when they were 16, 17, or even older. 22, 23. So it's been fun to kind of be an ambassador for the sport. I just love the sport. I think there's a lot of great things you can learn from American football, obviously. So it's been fun for me to teach the game, grow the game, just help people, and yeah, it's a great sport, and I love teaching people about it.
Amen. Guys, one of the things that Spencer and I met actually through the chance when he came into the Balkans and did a camp there in Croatia, I believe. If not there, we met through several connections, and we've been able to stay in contact these many years. And Spencer, when he goes places to grow the game, and there are teams that reach out looking for equipment, and we've been blessed to keep that connection and actually help teams around the world. And so, Spencer, I appreciate you taking the time to be here with us. Tell us a little bit about your family. Married, children? Where's that?
Yeah, I mean, if we would have had this conversation 6 months ago, I would have said I'm not married, but I am. Me and my wife celebrated 6 months this past weekend. So I
Congratulations.
got married. Yeah, thanks. Time flies. I mean, nothing will test your marriage than getting married and being thrown directly into quarantine for 3 months. So we've been tested in a great way, and it's been a growing experience for us. It's been a lot of fun. But yeah, so I got married at the end of 2019 in November. My wife is Brazilian, so I'm slowly turning her into an American football fan because she grew up, soccer, obviously. But she's learning, and she likes the sport too. And don't have any kids yet. I think in the future, in the coming years, we'll see if that's something that will be part of our future. But right now, we're just enjoying just being a young married couple living in Europe, and yeah. So we'll see what happens.
And coming out of quarantine here eventually.
Eventually, yeah, we'll see.
What a way to spend your honeymoon. You get an excuse.
Yeah.
So I know it's always hard when you get the question, what's your most memorable play, or what's your most memorable thing as a player / or coach, but maybe one or two kind of come to the top of things that were most memorable for you. Can you share with us?
Yeah, you're right. That is a tough question because, I mean, I think when you play or you coach a long time, there's just so many things that kind of come up. I think for me, a lot of them have been here in Europe. I think about as a player, I think my very first game in Europe was in 2014. As I said, I came over as an import player for a team in Poland, the Płock Mustangs. In our very first game, we were fortunate because the year before I got there, they only won 2 games. Team morale was pretty low. I came in and I was the only import. So I was the only American. It was all, local Polish guys. And the first week of the season, when most games are on Saturday, we had a Thursday night game. It's not quite the same as Thursday night football in the NFL, but we had Thursday night games. So we had the very first game in the whole season, in the whole league, and it was televised, which in Poland, that was a big deal at the time. So it was televised, and we were the only game that day. So all eyes were on us, which is cool. It was my first time ever playing a game outside of the States. And yeah, we basically beat a team by 1 touchdown who we lost to by 40 points the year before. So it was cool, kind of I don't want to say a redemption, revenge kind of game, but we got crushed by them the year before. And then my very first game ever, in Europe was cool that we were able to beat this team. And it was a really cool experience. And I think back, just things we went through that year and how it all started. And it was cool to be a part of that first win against a team that we got crushed by the year before. I think as a coach, maybe even more come to mind, man. But I think maybe the most fun was in 2017. I was the offensive coordinator for the Munich Cowboys in the GFL, the German Football League. And similar to Poland, the year before I got there, they only won a couple games. We weren't really expected to be a great team. I think, the first year that I was there. And midway through the year, we were on a 5-game losing streak. We'd only won one game at this point. We were 1-5. And we were facing the Marburg Mercenaries, who were tied for the top team in our division. And we were hosting them at home. And, like every game as a coach, you feel like you have a good game plan and you're like, oh, we've really schemed up this against them and we feel like we have a shot. And we did. We played them really hard. And we were down 35-28 with 17 seconds left. I'll give you just kind of the condensed version here.
Yeah.
So we're down by 17 seconds to go. We got the ball. We're able to punch it in from the 2-yard line. And then we kind of had the question of, what do we do? Because in Germany, in the GFL, there is an overtime actually. So if you tie, you tie. And it's rare, so it's kind of more you want to go for 2 if you can for the win. And we had momentum. We had our home crowd there. And so we said, okay, 35-28, we score. So now it's 35-34. We decide we're going to go for 2. And again, I was the offensive play caller, and I called kind of a weird play that I think people maybe were speculative. I'm like, why would he call that? It was an empty package. We had quads left, and we basically ran just kind of this wedge play at the middle with our quarterback because we got everyone outside the box, spread them out, and then we punched it in with our quarterback, who was a pretty decent runner as well. And we're able to win 36-35. We intercepted their Hail Mary in the last play of the game, and it was really, really cool. And honestly, we didn't even have a great year after that. So that was kind of one of the high points of the year to knock off the Marburg Mercenaries. They were kind of the top dog in our division. We were the low dog in our division. So that was a really memorable game and a lot of fun as a coach.
That's cool. So what position did you play in college?
I was a receiver.
Okay.
I was always kind of the small, undersized, quick, fast guy. But I tell people in Europe,
Junior.
I mean, I would like to think I was similar to that. I think a lot of people over here in Europe who aren't as familiar with the sport, they say, oh, so receiver, what does that mean? And I was like, well, my job is to catch the ball and run away from the big guys. That's kind of my role. And so I like playing receiver. That was always my position. I played quarterback as a kid, played a little bit growing up, but I really fell in love with receiver.
And when you came over to Europe, did you stay as a receiver or did they move you to another position?
It's funny. I came over to Poland as a receiver, and our quarterback got hurt the first week I was there in preseason training. And after practice one day, I was kind of throwing the ball around with some players, and they said, hey, you have a pretty good arm. And I was like, well, I've played a lot of catch in my life. I can throw it okay. And they said, hey, what about you play quarterback for the first game? Let's just kind of see how it goes. And I played quarterback the whole year, my first year in Poland.
Oh, wow.
And it's fun. I mean, I feel at home at receiver, but quarterback, you get to touch the ball every play. So that was kind of fun too.
There you go. Coach, let me ask you this. And you can kind of tell it from both sides of the pond, if you will. You have a coaching philosophy that's kind of your marching orders, right? And that's kind of how you formulate everything that you do from practice to a game, and that's your philosophy. And in coaching and playing both in the States, and then coaching and playing over in Europe, one, what is your coaching philosophy, and has it changed from playing in the States versus being or coaching in Europe?
Man, that's a great question. I think, I would say I'll kind of answer it in a two-part way. Okay. I think it has changed a little bit because I only have one experience coaching in the States, and that was coaching at Santa Barbara City College in California for a season in 2016. So that's my only experience coaching in the States. And I think in my experience there, scheme really mattered. I mean, this is junior college football, so we're trying to get guys recruited, and At the same time, we really want to win. And I was the receiver coach and the special teams coordinator. So I was all about scheme and trying to have like innovative kickoff return scheme that people had prepared for, and trying to get my receivers, the best that they could be. I had a few guys who were fortunate to go to play major college football, and that was cool. And I think it was really trying to find the edge schematically, whether it was little drills that we did or just watching film, analyzing the guys. I think that was a big part of coaching over there. Where I think in Europe, of course, you want to have a good scheme and you want to, be prepared as much as you can with the game plan. But I think you have to understand that in Europe, most of the time, the players have a full-time job outside of football, right? They're either a full-time student or they have a wife and kids and they work a 9 to 5, and football's a hobby. They're not paid for it. They usually pay to play, pay a team fee or whatever. And so I think, the way that you coach changes a little bit because you understand that, like, this is just a passionate hobby for a lot of people. And so I think, to answer your question, my coaching philosophy, to answer it broadly, I would say, especially in Europe, it's really just to, like, I want the players to know that I care about them as people. And that's not to say that in the States I didn't care about my players. Of course I did, and I hope that they know that. But I think even more in Europe, you grow up here and people say things like, people don't care how much you know unless they know how much you care, things like that. And it was always a coaching cliche thing to hear. But now as a coach, especially in Europe, I'm like, man, that is the truth. Like, I'm the head coach of the national team here in Belgium. We have a lot of great players, the best our country has to offer. And I double as the offensive coordinator too. But it's like, if you're going to ask one of my players about me, hey, what do you think about your coach? I would hope before they talk about, oh, he's a good offensive coach or he has a great scheme or whatever, I hope they would say, he's a great coach, but I think I know he cares about me as a person. I would hope that's how they would answer. So I think my coaching philosophy, I don't know if this is the best way to answer, but I think it's just that I want my players to know that I care about them as humans first. That scheme and all that kind of stuff will always come second. It's like, man, how do we develop you as a human? And then we'll kind of go from there.
Amen. I think that, that developing that relationship, they won't listen until they know you care, kind of thing. And going hand in hand with that, especially in Europe, because you made the comment, right? It's a hobby. For a lot of them, this is a club that they're doing after they're taking 9 hours or 8 hours at work, and they're coming out to try and give you the best that they can, the most that they have. And then they have to go home and be a student, or they have to go home and take responsibilities with family.
Yeah.
What do you, in that setting especially, try to instill in your players that are playing for you in that 3 hour, maybe 4 hour window on a weekend if you're playing? What are you trying to instill in your players?
Yeah, I think it's different for me because now I coach the national team. Just to give you a little bit of kind of background. So when I coached in Germany, the GFL, that was, I think, most considered the highest level of football in Europe. So it's the most professional that we can get, I think, in Europe. We have a lot of sponsors and there's more money involved. Here in Belgium, it's the national team that I coach. So we have the Belgian club season, and right after the club season, you have the national team season. So they kind of go in from their normal club season right into the national team program. And you're right, man. I mean, you have to be so efficient with your time because you have, a couple 2 hour, 3 hour practices maybe a week, and you have to be, maximize your time as much as you can. But I think to answer your question, or how I will answer it, is with the national team, we have 4 pillars that our program is built on. And maybe it's different from some other teams or how, a team in Germany might look at it. But from a national team perspective in Belgium, we have 4 pillars of our program. And that is pride, effort, accountability, and grit. And just to kind of give a quick, brief on all of those.
Please.
Pride has to come first. It's a national team. Like, all of our players are Belgian, right? So in order to be eligible for us, you have to have a Belgian passport. So pride, I think, as a national team, that really has to come first and foremost. Because Belgium is a really unique country. We have people that speak Dutch as their first language. We have people that speak French as their first language. We have people that speak German as their first language. And then we kind of coach in English because that's the lingua franca, the common language that we all have. You say in Dutch, it's Belgian, in French, it's Belgique, in German, it's Belgian, and English is Belgium. So even how we say our country's name is different in the languages. So I think but the one common denominator is that like we play for Belgium. That is where the pride comes in. So I think pride is really important from a national team perspective. So pride, effort for me, man, this is an awesome one because effort is a non-negotiable, right? Like you cannot have the biggest, the strongest, the fastest guy, but like there's no reason on defense that you shouldn't be hustling to the football. There's no excuse for not having great effort. I think attitude and effort is the epitome of human existence in terms of the things you can control. I can't control the weather. I can't control taxes. I can't control what other people say to me, but I can control my effort. I can control my attitude. So I think effort is a non-negotiable for us. So pride, effort, accountability. I think accountability is important because every good team is coach led, meaning that the coach has a vision and sets the culture and all that. And here's what we're going to be. But every great team at some point becomes player led, meaning that the players buy into the culture that the coach has set. And, a player might look at another player, and if they're not performing the way they're supposed to, they say, hey, that's not how we do things around here. Like it shouldn't always come from the coach, right? It should eventually, that maybe where it starts, but it should eventually kind of morph into where the players are holding each other accountable. Like it's not me yelling at them. Maybe that's how it starts, but eventually becomes like, hey man, like this is how we do things around here. So I think accountability is huge. So pride, effort.
Time out. I'm gonna trace back. You just finished accountability, and everything was fine, and then we got a low bandwidth
Okay.
marker. So you can repeat, your pride and your accountability, and then you go into your third one.
Okay.
3. Hang on. 3, 2, 1.
So with pride, effort, accountability, and grit, these are the 4 things that our program is built on. So with pride, it's a national team program, right? So we are all Belgian. All of our players, in order to be eligible for us, have to have a Belgian passport. So every single one of our guys is Belgian. They might speak French as their first language. They might speak Dutch as their first language. We have some guys that speak German as their first language. I coach in English. That's my first language. So we speak differently. We talk differently. We're from different parts of Belgium. But Belgium is the thing that unites us, and I think that's important. So I think pride as a national team program has to come first. Second is effort. Effort to me is a non-negotiable. There is never an excuse on defense not to be running to the ball full speed, right? Like you show your teammates you care about them when you hustle and run to the ball when you're tired. I think every statement in practice or in a game is a statement of commitment to your teammates. So I think effort is a non-negotiable. The third one is accountability. I think a lot of good teams are coach-led, meaning the coach instills the vision and the culture and kind of sets the standard, and I think that's good. But every great team eventually at some point in the season becomes player-led, meaning maybe it starts as me as a coach yelling at the players, this is how we got to do it, but eventually it kind of turns into the captains, the leaders of the team. If a player isn't performing or doing the right things they're supposed to be doing, the players look at each other and be like, hey, man, that's not how we do things around here. So we hold each other accountable. I think every great team has that. So you have pride, effort, accountability. And then the last one is grit. I think grit is sometimes people don't know how to define it. Sometimes you look at a guy like Wes Welker and you're like, I don't really know what it is, but he just seems gritty. It's like, what is that? And Angela Duckworth, who's this scientist who studied at Cambridge, and she's dedicated her whole career to studying what grit is. She defines grit as perseverance and passion for long-term goals. That is grit. So perseverance, so pushing through when things get hard, displaying passion when you really love something, not for the short term, but for long-term goals. So that is grit. So when you think about our 4 pillars, it's pride, effort, accountability, and grit. And I think that's the things that I want to instill into our players here.
Oh, excellent. I think that those are, every coach should want to have those as the 4 pillars. And, one of the hard things about coaching a national team, right, is you got players coming from all these different programs, and you've got to meld them into a team unit, right?
In a short time.
in a condensed window, and then creating those 4 pillars so they have a solid foundation of which to work from, right? Yeah. Coach, tell me what's the favorite, or what's your favorite part of the game?
Favorite part of football, I would say the relationships. When I think about my fondest memories as a player or as a coach, it always is about the players. It's always about hanging with the guys. I think about my favorite memories, for example, from high school football. Of course, we won some games. We had some cool moments on the field, but I think some of the best parts about that experience was the bus ride to away games, or playing cards with my teammates in the locker room after practice, going through the hard things like summer conditioning and all the tough workouts and training in the morning before school starts. And it's the relationships. I think, the people that I have met through this great game, it's unparalleled and it's unrivaled. I mean, I never thought as a kid from the States that I would grow up and eventually coach in Europe. And football, here's the crazy thing. Last September, Belgium, we played a game against Team Israel in a European qualifier game. That game was held in Jerusalem. As a Christian growing up in the States, I never thought American football would be the thing that eventually took me to Jerusalem, of all places, the holy city. It wasn't a mission trip that took me there. It was football, of all things. And so I think I'm grateful for football for a lot of things. But to answer your question, what's my favorite part of football? Man, I love scheme. I love what's the latest RPO and how can we, attack a defense. I love all that kind of stuff. I love the mental part of the game, understanding the mental performance is 90% of the game and 10% of it is physical performance. I love those kind of things too. But I think my favorite part of football, it's the relationships. It's the people. It's the people that you meet. It's the people that you grow close to. It's the people that you grow with. And I think that's the best part of the game for me.
You make a great point there. It's not only just the people that you play with. It's the with, just not even, not even on the field, but you develop these friendships, these lasting relationships, if you will, that far outweigh what you did on the field. Obviously what you were doing on the field was important, but it's the bus rides and it's talking and it's getting to know someone above and beyond what the actual physical part of the game or even the mental part of the game was. That's really cool. Coach, if you don't mind, share just a little bit of your testimony of, obviously, you made comment about Belgium playing Israel, and you were playing in Jerusalem, and, grew up as a Christian in America. What kind of, where did you allow your life to go while you were playing and now as you're coaching?
Yeah. So I think when it comes to my testimony, I was really fortunate to have two parents that were Bible believing Christians. I was raised in the church. I was that kid who was at church every Sunday, every Wednesday night, every conference and event. I mean, I was there, and I'm really grateful for that. And I got saved as a young kid. And I know without a doubt that when I got saved as a 6-year-old, I know that it was a genuine, authentic, real moment. But I would say I never really grew from 6 until I was 19. I grew a little physically, but spiritually, I didn't really grow much. It's crazy to think that I still went to church all these years, but I never really had that yearning and desire to grow closer to the Lord. And my faith was kind of something that was, I think, just always part of just what was around me, but it wasn't really mine. And so when I got into college, I was fortunate to have some mentors and some older players that kind of poured into me. And I was never ashamed to be a Christian. I mean, growing up, I was always like, yeah, I'm a Christian, of course. Yeah. But when I got into college, people tested me in a good way. And they said, so what do you believe? Why do you believe it? What in the Bible, where in the Bible does it say, or does it back up what you're saying? And I couldn't answer these fundamental elementary questions about Christianity. And I think that's when I was like, man, if I profess Christianity, I need to make sure I possess it as well. You know what I mean? I had to really take a deep dive look into my heart and be like, man, if I tell people I'm a Christian, I need to know what I believe.
Right.
And I really kind of became pretty introspective and started reading a lot in scripture for the first time when I was 19 as a college kid. I looking back, it's fortunate because I got injured my second year in college and I had to take a medical red shirt. And it was a bummer because I couldn't play, for a season. But I had a lot more time kind of alone, and I was able to read the Bible for the first time, really, not because I felt that I had to or because I should, but I was like, man, I want to know more. I think every Christian at some point realizes, the more you read the Bible, the more you realize how much you don't know. And I think I experienced that. I was like, man, I'm learning so much, but the more I learn, I'm like, man, there's so much to learn.
Yeah.
And I think that's when my faith really became real and it became mine. And it's only grown from there. I mean, of course, there's ebbs and flows in the faith, and there's ups and downs, and there's peaks and valleys. And I've had my fair share of, high moments, and I've also had my fair share of low moments too. But I'm fortunate to have some people that poured into me when I was in college. They really pushed me and helped develop me. And yeah, I feel fortunate to continue that trajectory of growing closer to Him every day.
Amen. You bring up a great point. For many of us, I too was fortunate to grow up in a Christian home. I was the youngest of five, and I actually saw some brothers kind of go a different pathway, and realized I didn't want to disappoint my parents, that kind of thing. But when I came to faith, I really came to faith of my Father. I didn't internalize it or have that relationship. It was more of a religion, if you will. And my
Mm-hmm.
father told me, and I knew the academics of it. I knew that I didn't want to go to hell. I knew there was a difference. I knew that I was a sinner. I knew I need Jesus, but I
Mm-hmm.
didn't really have that come to Jesus moment until much later in my life. And I can honestly say, different than yourself. When you said 6, you knew. Well, I
Yeah.
went forward at 12, and I went forward mainly because of my dad was kind of tapping me on the shoulder. Are you ready to go forward? Are you ready to go forward? Are you ready?
Yeah.
And so I did. And again, like I say, I knew the academics, but I had a faith in my father, so it wasn't real. And it wasn't until, I always had to read the Bible, always had to pray. And then it became this, I want to know because people are asking me, and how can I defend my faith if I don't really know? And so, I think,
Yeah.
as you said in your medical red shirt, it took the time right then to dig into the word because people were asking and challenging you in a good way, but you just didn't have the answers. And then being able to
Yeah.
look at it and go, you know what? I know now, without a shadow of a doubt, whose I am, right? And I can stand on the solid rock because of what Scripture has told me. So
Yeah.
thanks for sharing your heart there. Appreciate
Yeah.
that. So we're getting to the end, and I want to have a little fun. This is a time where we do a lot of a word association game, if you will, Coach. So we're putting you on the spot here, if you will. And I'm going to say a word, and you can say one or
Let's
two
do
words
it.
per sentence that comes first to mind when I say these words. Okay? You ready?
Let's do it.
All right, here we go.
Yeah.
First word, love. I'm sorry you broke up. Let me try it again. Love.
Wife.
Oh, okay, good. Hard work.
Commitment.
Family.
Love.
Fun.
Football.
Hope.
Jesus.
Dreams.
Mm. I would say love too.
Okay. Faith.
Freedom.
Ooh. I was going to say, I've been interviewing coaches from all over, and I've been saying Texas, and I was interviewing a coach from Ohio the other day, and he was, so I had to adjust. So how about Georgia? Did you get Georgia?
Say it again. Sorry, I kind of
Okay.
cut
No, it
that for a
did,
second.
and I'll cut this out. But the word Georgia. Look like it cut out again. Are you there with me? Are we back?
I'm here now. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Sorry.
That's all right. It's my internet, or your internet. It's all, everybody's on them, right? So let's try it again. Georgia.
Football.
Okay. The Balkans.
Strong.
Friendship.
Peace.
Communication.
Important.
Relationship.
Tough but essential.
Thanks, Coach. I appreciate that. When I've said the word communication, it's either essential or necessary, and some of
Yeah.
difficult. And
Yeah.
we all know that also is true. Coach, we're coming down to the end again. Thanks for taking the time, Spencer, to spend with us and to spend with these guys. And to close out, if you had, I'll give you 15 seconds. It's kind of that last word of advice or that words of wisdom that you would give these guys. What would it be?
I would say that people struggle a lot, whether it's quarantine or just in life in general. People struggle, and that's okay. But I think how you view the struggle is really important. For example, winners realize that the struggle is actually a privilege because it gives them an opportunity to grow and become better, improve themselves. Where losers see struggling as an unnecessary inconvenience, and if it makes life harder, they avoid it at all costs. So I think we struggle, and I think struggling is okay sometimes, but how do you view that? If you view it as an opportunity to get better, you're a winner.
Oh, wow. That's great. I need to write those down. This
I don't know if that was over 15 seconds or not, but
no, this playbook that I'm going to have to finish the advice and all that, it's going to be a good thing. So again, Spencer, thanks for spending the time. I appreciate you. Much success, in your upcoming national season, as well as the club season that who knows when it's going to get started, who knows when it's going to kick off, but appreciate all you do. And thanks again for taking the time.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. It's always fun chatting with you.
God bless you. Take care.
Talk soon.
Thank you from the bottom of our heart for allowing us to be a part of your life. Take care. God bless. Remember, He did it. Let's do it.